2 years and two very big wins over Tennessee. And in this particular case, it seemed almost like Steve Spurrier had returned. It was so bad. How good did you think the Gators could be after that game, particularly on your offense, putting up 554 yards on Tennessee and 59 points?
I would be lying to you if I sat here and said, we weren't a little overconfident after that game. If we, didn't look into that game a little too much because we did. After coming off a national championship year, like I said before, the '06 class, us being majority freshmen. I mean, well, everyone being pretty much freshmen that year, and a few of us having success, but coming back, and a lot of us are playing now sophomores, and our first SEC game, we win, by that big of a margin. We got a little overconfident, and guys, start feeling like, maybe we've arrived a little quicker than we have, and I'm not saying, people took things for granted and it didn't work, but you get that feeling, and not the complacency doesn't set in, but, you just get that feeling that you've arrived a little bit, and, I think that's what, set in a little bit for us the weeks to come more than anything.
Well, that put you guys at 3-0, and then your next game was against Ole Miss, and you had another couple of big kick returns against them, but aside from you, the team just looked a little shaky. I mean, you guys opened up a 27-9 lead, but then Ole Miss just came right back into the game. Then they cut it down to 6, and they could have won it if Florida had made a couple of big stops at the end. But, well, did it almost seem to you that there were potential problems brewing in that game?
I mean, yeah. I mean, throughout the game, different situations. At Florida, we always pride ourselves when we feel like we have the athletes and we had the personnel where we should be able to score. At the worst, get 3 points every time we get the ball. And, whenever we're getting stopped and going 3 and out and just having stagnant drives, we take things like that personally. That was the first game where that was happening, more than one. It kept coming up. And, it was very frustrating and, nerve-wracking, but we try to get it better week in and week out through practice.
Do you think that destroying what turned out to be a very good Tennessee team the week before played a big part in your guys', bare escape over the Ole Miss Rebels?
It's hard to say. Like I said before, after that Tennessee game, I would be a liar to say, the guys weren't a little overconfident after winning that game the way we did. But, like I said, we came into practice the same way. If I can recall, everyone came into practice work hard that week. No one, just try to take anything off or take things for granted or anything like that. But like I said before, it comes with the territory in the SEC. You have to week in and week out, like you're facing, SEC championship opponent, SEC championship game. And we did it going into Ole Miss, and it was a lackadaisical game, and we had to fight it to the end to pull it out.
Well, you guys managed to pull it out that week, and you won that game. You guys didn't get so lucky in the next month. I mean, quite honestly, it was the worst month in your 4 years in Gainesville. All right, first you lost to Auburn again. Very tough game, which your offense really had trouble, and especially in the first half. Kind of got it going again in the second half, but it didn't work. You guys wound up with only 17 points, and then Wes Byram game-winning field goal. Starts running around doing some gator chomps here or there. How upsetting was that?
It was very upsetting. Like you said, just to lose. Period. I'm a guy that's a competitor, hate to lose. Doesn't like the taste at all, and to be at Florida and to lose to Auburn again, like you said before, it was just tough. And to lose in that manner, field goal at the end, and when the game when you're better than the team, it's tough. It's tough to take, and it's tough to handle, and it was tough to deal with.
After the Auburn game, you guys faced LSU in Death Valley, and in that game, you guys had a lead early on. You held it throughout most of the game, but in the fourth quarter, Tigers come back and go 5 for 5 on fourth down, and they come out with the win. And if the one the week before against Auburn hurt, this one really must have hurt because LSU was number 1 in the country. You were so close to pulling out a win on their home turf. How much did this one hurt?
There's a lot. Just because, like you said, the way we lost, in the manner we lost, fourth down, third down completions, whatever. Conversions, whatever it was. It was really tough. But I just keep reverting back to the way we lost that year and how we lost was all contributing to the youth. After being, myself going through all those growing pains, being a freshman and winning early, being a sophomore and going through the growing pains, and then being a junior and winning again, you see exactly what it takes to win. And I know, looking back on it, it was just you not knowing how to handle adversity, you not knowing, not being through those situations as leaders and how to handle the team and how to get through things like that. Like I said previously before, that freshman year when we were dealing with those losses, we had a majority seniors that were getting the team back on the right track and leading us. Now it's redshirt freshmen and sophomores leading the team. So, it was a little bit of a different situation, but we handled it the best way we could and got over it the best way we could.
Well, the next game you guys played Kentucky. You beat them, a very good Kentucky team that year. And then after that, you guys played Georgia. And this was a game that still was very big for you guys. If you'd won it, you still very well could have won the SEC East, gone to Atlanta, which is, as you've said, your biggest goal at the beginning of each year. And on their first touchdown of the game, well, we all know what happened. They all rushed the field, start dancing around you guys, around your defense, and you were on the bench for that. But what'd you think when you saw all these guys just running on the field like little kids?
It was crazy. To be honest with you, it was crazy because it's something you never seen in sports, period, before. I grew up in the age where your coaches don't want you to celebrate. Of course, I was a fan of the Miamis and all these different teams that did that type of thing, but you grow up with your coach telling you, that's not a good thing. Don't celebrate, don't taunt the opponent. And you play a team like that, and they rush the field. You see big guys dancing and all this type of stuff, and then you find out that their coach encouraged it. It was crazy. So it was something we tried to respond to, but we never quite gained the momentum back after that play because, to be honest with you, they just took control after that one play.
Well, a lot of people forget, everyone just, when they think of the 2007 Florida-Georgia game, all they think about is the Georgia players dancing around like little kids. But people forget that after that, Florida had a lead in that game. It wasn't like that was the end of the game. Florida had chances to put some more points on the board. They didn't do it. And the defense got burned a lot. Mohamed Massaquoi goes 90 yards for a touchdown and, waltzes the last 20 yards because there's no one else even close to being back there. Stafford goes to Mikey Henderson for a big play, a 40-yarder, huge dagger. There's no one back there to help out. It just didn't seem like, the Gators were ready to play the rest of the game. And when you finally realized that the game was over, how devastating was it to you?
Very devastating. To lose 2 SEC games in a year, the first time since being in college, it was very devastating, especially to use the Georgia in that manner. With all the different things that happened throughout the game, it was tough, and it was tough to get over. It was tough for us as a team to even come back that next week in practice. But you just try to get over it and try to move on to the next week.
Well, after that month of October, which is pretty brutal, the Gators are pretty much out of everything. They were out of the SEC title hopes. They were out of the national title hopes. And there was still one thing for you guys to play for, though, and that was for your quarterback, Tim Tebow, to get a Heisman Trophy. And the talk really started heading up to the South Carolina game. He had a huge game. What was it like to watch Tebow go to work knowing that, any play could make or break his Heisman chances?
It was something special to be a part of. He did a great job that year, just putting up numbers. Our coaching staff did a great job, coming up with game plans and different things to incorporate his strengths and for him to succeed in different games. But I would be allowed to sit here and say it was bittersweet because the more success he was having, it just reminded us of, the situation we're in and, us not being in the BCS aspirations and being in, contentions of playing in BCS games. So it was a little tough to deal with, but at the same time, you're excited for him because he's having success.
Well, at the end of the year, you guys get your annual rivalry game with Florida State, and you got both teams are out of championship contention, but it's still a rivalry. It's still Florida State, bragging rights of the Sunshine State, and right away Florida jumps out after an early FSU field goal. They just turn it on, and at the beginning of the second half, you catch the opening kickoff, you go all the way down for a touchdown, and it gets called back. How frustrating is that?
To be honest with you, that's probably one of the most frustrating plays to look back on in my career. And at the time, it's not frustrating because, like I said before about the previous returns, when you're making plays in the moment, you're not really thinking of, wow, they called it back, and then, the magnitude of what it means. But, to look back up, it's very frustrating because myself growing up as a Florida State fan and being a diehard, and, that was my freshman year, not really being able to leave a mark on the game. That was my way of leaving a mark on the game. And, for it to get called back and be taken back away from me, it was very tough to deal with. But at the same time, that brought a lot of momentum to us. And throughout that game, it still carried on as a big play throughout the game.
Right, and the 7 points didn't matter. Florida just crushed FSU throughout the entire game, and it was a good way of shutting up Geno Hayes, who said before the game, Tim Tebow's going down. We're going to go out there and shatter his dream. What do you make of trash talk like that before such a big game?
I think it's healthy, but at the same time, I think it can hurt you in different situations. For them, I think it hurt them because we're a team that thrives and lives off things like that. Like I said before, Coach Miles, psychology major. That's what we're waiting on things, bulletin board material from different teams, so we can just go off of it all week and all summer. And that was one thing we just. We lived off of all that week, and then coming into the game, they didn't have a chance, and he definitely didn't have a chance.
When Tim Tebow goes up onto the stage to get the Heisman Trophy, you're watching. What's going through your mind?
You're just excited for him, being his teammate and, going through, everything that he's went through pretty much through college and the workouts and everything like that and games and, all the hard work and blood, sweat, and tears. You're just excited for him and hoping the best for him in that moment.
And after your regular season, you guys got accepted to the Capital One Bowl to take part in Capital One Bowl against Michigan. But before that, it was a very successful regular season in general. Going by the general college football standards, Florida went 9-3. They beat the eventual SEC East champion. They played very tough against some of the best teams in the country that year. And you guys beat Tennessee, your rival. You guys beat FSU, your rival, lost to Georgia, but you went 2 out of 3 against your rivals. But to you, coming off a national championship in your first season and looking back now, in hindsight, with everything else you accomplished in future years, how would you rank the success of 2007?
It was easily, the worst year in college football for me. You say by looking at, the college football standards, it wasn't acceptable season. But for Florida standards and our standards, it wasn't acceptable at all. Having 3 losses and losing to Georgia, losing to LSU, that's not acceptable for our standards. And to do that in the same year and also lose to Auburn, 3 SEC games and then losing your bowl game, it just wasn't acceptable at all. Looking back on it, like I said before, it's easily the worst season I had in college. And it was something in that summer and, all through the off season, we just, and coach, we just tried to forget about it, try to work towards the next season. And Coach Nick, and the rest of the coaching staff did a great job of preparing us.
Well, I'm going to briefly touch on that bowl game. I just was taken aback by, that it just didn't seem like Florida was defensively, it just didn't seem like they were playing very well. And I remember at the end of the game, I just sat there in the exact same spot, and I said, what the hell was that? I mean, it just didn't seem like Florida football on defense. It just seemed like a very strange game from the get-go. I mean, what'd you make of it?
Similar to what you thought. We just weren't playing this, great defense like Florida usually does. But, as we said previously in the interview, when you have youth playing and, youth that hasn't been in those situations and doesn't know how to handle adversity and doesn't know how to handle, tough situations like, some guys were put in those games, you lose those games. And that's what was happening. You have guys out there that had been in those situations and they're giving up big plays. And when they give up those big plays, they don't have to respond after those big plays. So they keep giving up big plays. And, that was happening throughout that game. And, that's why we lost that game. But, throughout, that summer and that spring, those young guys got better. And they came back that next year and were seasoned veterans. And, history, shows what they turned into after that.